Let's go back into the courtroom in Utah, where Kouri Richins' attorneys are doing some serious work to try to get evidence suppressed. We've got another officer on the stand. Let's watch.
And penalties of perjury.
Detective O'Driscoll, I want to turn your attention to and discuss your interaction with the defendant on April the 14th, 2023. Do you recall that day?
Yes.
At that point in time, what was your relationship with this case?
I had just been assigned as the lead investigator on the case. I was not familiar with all the details of the case. I was trying to get a fresh perspective and pretty much starting from scratch.
And as part of your start from scratch, did you want to introduce yourself to the defendant?
Yes, I wanted her to know that there had been a change, not only in the assignment of the lead investigator on her case, but there had been some supervisory changes to the investigations division as well.
And when you say her case, you mean the case at that point in time investigating the death of Eric Richins?
Correct.
What was the change to not only you as the lead investigator, but you said, I think, the supervision of the division?
There was a new sergeant over the detectives, the investigation division, Sergeant Hoffmeyer.
So I take it you determined to then personally call on the defendant on April the 14th, 2023.
Correct.
And why personally instead of over the telephone?
It had been a year since Eric's death. I felt it was more professional considering the loss that she'd gone through in the family, and felt that it was more appropriate to show up in person to speak with her and to introduce myself than over the phone.
Okay. There came a time then when you appeared on the doorstep of the Willow Court home where she was then residing. Is that correct?
Correct.
And thus began your interaction with her on that day, right?
Yes.
Did you record that interaction with her?
Yes, I did.
How did you record it?
I had a audio recorder running, and then later I activated a body cam that I had with me.
Okay. Let's talk about the body camera. When did you activate it?
After we were invited into the home and asked to sit down.
And did you activate it roughly contemporaneously with the point on the body or the point on the recording where you say, "Do you mind if I record this interview?" or something to that effect?
Correct.
Can you please describe the body camera, not only how the body camera itself looks, but where it was sitting in relation rather to the defendant?
Yes, I wasn't dressed in a law enforcement uniform, and so I didn't have a mount that's typically available to officers to mount their camera to their body. I just had it loose. It's a small, square, black body cam that's similar to those worn by patrol officers at that time. And when I activated it, I sat it on the armrest of the couch between myself and Miss Richins.
Was it in Miss Richins' plain view the entire time it was active?
Yes.
Does the body camera itself make any noise or light?
Yes.
What noise or light does it make?
It beeps and vibrates every few minutes, and there's a red flashing light that also indicates that it's recording.
And would Miss Richins, the defendant, have been able to see from the location of the body camera vis-a-vis her the blinking red light and hear the vibration and beeping?
Yes.
You mentioned it was similar to body cameras that officers on patrol wore at the time. Was it similar to the body cameras that the officers on patrol were wearing while they interacted with the defendant in the early morning hours of March the 4th, 2022?
Yes, at least some of them were wearing the same body camera.
Have you reviewed both the audio recording and the body camera recording that you made that day?
Yes.
Are those recordings true and accurate?
Yes.
Your Honor, the body camera recording that we're discussing is Exhibit 10, and a transcript is Exhibit 11.
Got it.
Did there come a time when you were on the front stoop of the defendant's home, that she invited you in?
Yes.
And is that accurately reflected in the recording?
Yes.
Did you then, upon her invitation, enter the home?
Yes.
Can you describe how you entered the home, how the home was laid out, and where you and Sergeant Hoffmeyer was with you?
Yes, correct, he was.
Where you, Sergeant Hoffmeyer, the defendant, and ultimately the defendant's mother, Lisa Darden, were sitting?
Yes. So the front door of the home opens into a short foyer. Directly in front of the door, through the foyer, is the main living area of the home. There were couches and love seats in the family room. Miss Richins sat on one end of the couch. I sat on the other end, and Sergeant Hoffmeyer sat in a separate piece of furniture near us. When Miss Darden entered, that Lisa, the defendant's mother, she seated herself on a entertainment center across from the couch on one wall of the living room.
What was your observation of the defendant's mood throughout the conversation?
She seemed very cheery, very open, happy to be talking with us, happy to have the opportunity to talk to investigators. She was outgoing.
At any time throughout your interaction with her on that day, did you observe her cry or become, did you observe tears fall from her eyes?
I didn't see tears, no.
I want to turn your attention to, in the binder before you.
Oh, we got her defense attorney kind of smiling there, shaking his head, like looking disgusted at that. What can you do? I mean, the lawyers can only do so much. And I remember we did see tears at one hearing, I believe, with Kouri Richins, but not a lot of tears through most of these hearings. Boy, this is a good one today. Did these cops mess up? We're going to find out. The judge is reserving ruling, and the reason why we're airing this all today is because the judge restricted live streaming of this, broadcasting of it in any way yesterday when it was going on, so we had to wait. So let's hit our break. We'll get you back in there and hear more in the case of Utah mom turned grief author and defendant, Kouri Richins. Thanks for being with us on this Friday morning. I'm Julie Grant. I have a quick programming note to pass along to you before we get you back into the courtroom in Utah. Make sure you're still watching Court TV this afternoon for the opening statements in the celebrity stylist murder trial. Monica Cementilli is facing murder and conspiracy charges in connection to the death of her famous husband, hairstylist Fabio Cementilli.
I feel like I hold one of the key positions in the industry for hairdressers. And with that comes a lot of responsibility.
So we're juggling a few trials for you today, but we're going to take you into that California courtroom as soon as we can for the opening statements. Now, let's go back to Utah. Let's hear more from the detective on the stand in Kouri Richins' case.
I've read the whole thing. Could you repeat the question for me?
Yes. Would you agree with me that when you prepared this affidavit that it was clear that Kouri Richins was a primary suspect of your investigation?
No, I wouldn't agree with that statement.
You would not?
No.
You didn't think she was a suspect at this point?
I didn't have definitive information that she was a suspect.
Okay. But you wanted to look in her phone, and you were asking a judge to let you look into a phone, right? Her phone.
Correct.
And you're asking to look into her phone, by your own words, to see if she tried to obtain fentanyl on her phone.
Yes, that's the part that's recalling my memory is at that time, with the limited information I had, the most important fact that I felt we knew was that Eric died of fentanyl overdose. So the biggest question to me was how the fentanyl got into his system. And in my opinion, there were basically 3 different ways that Eric could have died of a fentanyl overdose. It could have been an accidental overdose, it could have been a suicide, or it could have been a homicide. In order to be thorough, I was trying to investigate all 3 of those possibilities.
So 1 year after he died, you still had no idea whether it was a suicide, a homicide, or an accident?
That's correct.
Okay. So you show up to have this friendly introduction with Ms. Richins. Do you tell her that you had just applied for this affidavit?
No.
And when you say you started from scratch, I mean, you didn't start from scratch. You'd spent a month reviewing the information prior to talking to Kouri, right?
No. I had not spent a full month reviewing that information. I still had a full caseload besides this case. When my time permitted, I reviewed what I could.
Okay, so you reviewed the files, right? Enough to do this affidavit.
Enough to submit this affidavit, yes.
You had talked to the previous case investigator, right?
Yes, but not a full debrief of the case.
Okay, but you'd talked to her, right? You'd reviewed the ME report, because you just said that.
Yes, I have.
Right? Had you looked at the material that was taken off of her phone previously?
No.
All right, so you show up, you don't tell Kouri that you just applied for a warrant to search her private information. Actually, what you tell her is that you all coach soccer together or something? Is that what you said when you came on to the house?
Your Honor, let me kind of renew this objection. What he told her is documented in audio and video recording. There's no dispute. It's not a game of gotcha. It is what it is.
Are you just trying to jog his recollection, lay foundation, or can we just move on?
All 3.
Okay, thank you.
Can I just get him to answer that one question? You talked about the fact that you all had ties in the community through soccer coaching and things like that, right?
Correct.
And then maybe she knew your wife or something?
That sounds familiar.
Okay. But you didn't tell her you were investigating her for homicide at any point in those 3 hours?
No.
You also didn't tell her you had a hidden recorder on your person, did you?
It wasn't.
Can you be specific at which
Yes.
point in time you're talking about?
When you first arrived at her house? Thank you, Your Honor.
No, the intention was not necessarily to hide it. The audio-only recorder was brought as redundancy in case of failure of equipment technology
Where was it?
in my pocket.
Okay. Did you tell her
It
there's...
wasn't visible to her.
Right. Did
But
you
my
tell-
intent was not to hide that I was recording her.
Okay. Did you know whether Sergeant, it's Hoffmeyer, right, that was with you?
Correct.
Did you know whether Sergeant Hoffmeyer had a hidden recorder on him?
So our memories have been a bit confused on this point. Originally, I thought I had remembered that he had the recorder. The recorder was his piece of equipment and tools, but I think after listening to the recording from how far away he sounds from the microphone, I think I had the recorder on me, but it was just the one audio recorder and the one body cam.
And you intended to go in there and ask Kouri questions directly about what happened with her husband's death, didn't you?
After she invited us in and consented to having us interview her, yes.
When she invited you in, did you Mirandize her?
No.
Right. Did you know she had a lawyer?
No, I did not.
You did not? All right, let's look at the transcript for just a moment. I believe it is number Exhibit 11 in front of you. And can you go to page 7? And literally, you guys have maybe exchanged pleasantries, and you've only been there like a couple of minutes at this point, if it's page 7, right?
Yeah, it looks like about the time we were sitting down.
So can you read what Kouri said to you on line 3 of page 7?
So my attorney has been pushing to, obviously we just wanted her off the case because we're not getting anything done, anything accomplished.
And who's she talking about wanting off the case?
I think she was referring to Detective Woody.
So minutes into your meeting with her, she advised you she had an attorney.
Yes.
And you knew that you were going to elicit information from her that could be used against her, did you not?
I didn't know what information she would provide. I just wanted to know the facts surrounding the night of his death.
If she had said, hey, I killed my husband, would you have used that against her?
Likely.
Okay. So you didn't Mirandize her at that point. You knew she had a lawyer. You knew you were looking for information about her involvement in her husband's death, and you did not Mirandize her, correct?
Correct.
Did you tell her that she didn't have to meet with you, that you were only there if she wanted you to be there?
I don't remember the exact words that were exchanged before we entered the house, but I didn't say that specifically, no.
And you didn't record those, did you?
Yeah, they're recorded on the audio, just not on the body camera.
Okay. Were you wearing a gun?
I think so.
Was Sergeant Hoffmeyer in a uniform?
I think so. I don't remember specifically.
Did he have a gun?
Probably.
Okay. All right. Prior to your meeting with Ms. Richins, when you were applying for the warrant of the phone that had been seized from her in April of '22, did you review the reports about the seizure and the investigation on the 12th?
No.
When you were reviewing Agent Woody's file, do you recall seeing correspondence from her attorney, from Kouri Richins' attorney, instructing that no one investigating the case interview her client again without the lawyer being present?
Your Honor, objection. That wildly mischaracterizes the correspondence. The correspondence is in evidence. It says what it says.
Would you rephrase the question?
Do you remember reviewing correspondence from Ms. Richins' attorney in
Why don't we just pause there?
Detective Woody's file?
There you go.
No.
Do you remember discussing it with Detective Woody?
No.
So prior to going to interview the key suspect of a murder investigation, you didn't take 1 minute to check and see if she was represented by counsel after a year?
No.
Okay. All right.
Your Honor, the state's going to object to this line of questioning. The state renews its objection based on the Sixth Amendment, in that the Sixth Amendment has not yet attached.
So you say, but we're going to have to get into some briefing about whether this proceeding had reached a quote-unquote critical stage under the case law and whether we'd begun to focus on a particular suspect or other critical stage. Let's just get the facts in.
Okay. Thank you, Your Honor.
Your Honor, let me make the record.
Sure.
Then let me finish the record on the Sixth, quick move to the Fifth.
Sure.
I think the Sixth Amendment case law in Utah, the Padaki case, says it attaches at arraignment. And so I think it is a clear decision that there is no Sixth Amendment point. The Sixth Amendment has not attached at this point in the narrative. Moving to the Fifth Amendment. Your Honor, the Fifth Amendment, of course, attaches when there is a custodial interrogation.
Truth.
And Utah's Perea case, really citing to McNeil v. Wisconsin of the Supreme Court, says one cannot anticipatorily.
All right, so who's right here? Let me bring in our law professor, legal analyst, criminal defense attorney, and former prosecutor Franz Borghardt. Okay, Franz, I see as you're watching this along with us, you have some thoughts, clearly based on your expressions. What do you think here?
So I am with the state with regard to custodial interrogation and Miranda. So the viewers know, and we're all on the same page, you don't have to Mirandize someone unless they're under custodial interrogation. Not under arrest, just not free to leave. And generally, in modern law enforcement, we Mirandize everybody. It's just, it is what it is, but you don't have to, right? So I'm with the state on that. I'm not necessarily sure I agree with the right to counsel, Sixth Amendment assessment by the state with regard to Utah's, when does it trigger under Utah? Because she's going to argue that that's all fine and good. She also has United States constitutional rights that trigger well before then. So, but this is the gray area, Julie. She has an attorney. She lets them know she has an attorney. It doesn't mean that they have to stop talking to her. She can say, I don't want to talk to you unless my attorney's present. And then they have to stop it. But if she keeps going, she keeps going. So I think this one's going to be I don't know that she's under custodial interrogation at this point, but this is going to get a little murky and a little gray.
It is, Franz. I love your analysis. Tell me, do you think that it's at all problematic or maybe, I don't know, maybe dare I say a little bit embarrassing for these officers because this is a year after Eric Richins' death? It's not like there was something that meant that they had to rush in their investigation and taking their time and making sure they dotted their I's, crossed their T's, had every warrant they needed, did everything the proper way. Do you think that what's maybe a little bit of shame, going to be a shame if this all gets tossed out, is that there wasn't any reason to hurry this? Do you know what I'm saying? Do you think that this also is kind of I keep thinking to myself, like, if I was the prosecutor and I got this, I'm going to go, why? What's wrong with you? It's not like she's Donna Adelson on the way to, another country that doesn't extradite.
So when I was teaching law enforcement officers, when I was a prosecutor, I would have called this case a teaching opportunity because
it's very polite.
Best practice. Yeah, I mean, it's a weird situation, Julie, because it's the rubber meet the road between best practices, Mirandize her. Why not Mirandize her? You got plenty of time in the world. They don't Mirandize sometimes because they want the individual to be comfortable or they don't think they need to, or they just don't do it. There's best practices, and then there's the exclusionary rule, which basically says because you didn't do what you were supposed to do constitutionally, we're going to exclude evidence. Now, in this situation, you are spot on. It's a year later. Mirandize her. You can say, look, this is pretty standard. We Mirandize everybody. You have a right to all these things. It takes literally seconds to do it. The viewers have watched enough TV to know how little of a time it takes to do this. Why not do it? Right. And the problem is there's really not a good answer. And it may not be unconstitutional, but it just looks bad optics.
It does. I think they've got a little bit of egg on their faces. Franz, thank you for all that great analysis. Stand by kindly, please. We're going to hit a break. When we come back, more Kouri Richins after this.
Grieving widow or mastermind behind a murder.
Monica Cimentelli is accused of plotting to kill her husband.
Famed celebrity hairstylist Fabio Cimentelli.
Prosecutors say she and her lover killed Fabio to collect a big life insurance policy.
The defense may say she's a bad woman, but she wouldn't be involved in a murder.
It's a whodunit Hollywood story, but will there be a twist that no one sees?
The celebrity stylist murder trial, today, only on Court TV.
Thank you for staying with us here on Court TV. Let's go back into the courtroom in Utah. We're hearing from a detective on Kouri Richins' case.
You need custody before you can invoke the Fifth Amendment. And so all this business about whether the defendant was represented, whether Detective O'Driscoll knew she was represented or otherwise, is immaterial.
To the Fifth?
To the Fifth.
Not necessarily to the Sixth. We'll see if your citation to Utah case law is correct. But I understand your point regarding the Fifth. I think the Fifth Amendment issues, right, are why they keep asking her if he had a gun on and show of force, free to leave, Mirandized, all that stuff.
Correct. I believe that line of questioning goes to the Fifth Amendment argument.
Correct.
They will one day make.
Right.
But here's the state's concern is the state is certain that we can select a fair and impartial jury from Summit County potential jurors. But the state is very cognizant that the more information, and in this instance, the more false information put into the potential jury pool will make it more difficult and take longer to select those fair and impartial jurors.
Well, I have shared this concern generally in this case from the detention, the first detention hearing, given the level of media attention. But the reason I don't think that cuts one way or the other with respect to Summit County versus Salt Lake County versus, candidly, Washington County is because the outlets that are covering this, 95% of them are national or international outlets or new media outlets on YouTube that do not respect any county boundaries. And so I think the concern you're expressing, while valid, applies to every potential jury pool.
Well, yes, Your Honor, I agree with that. I think we will argue that one day in the future. The reason I mention it is the gratuitous publication of false information through the course of these moving papers and this examination is unhelpful to creating and quickly filing a fair and impartial jury, whether it's Summit or Salt Lake or wherever.
I appreciate your concern. I don't think we are even approaching, never mind beyond, the point of no return in that regard. And I'll stay aware and vigilant.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Okay.
Just pointing out, Your Honor, all of these materials have come from the state, and this is the
Ms.
first.
Nestor, we can just move on.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so I want to move now to the search that you did and the arrest. By the way, Kouri was arrested. You sought an arrest warrant for her within a couple of weeks of having this start from scratch interview of her, right?
Yeah, that time frame sounds correct.
So in the space of your interview with her on the whatever the date is, the 14th, and her arrest on May 8th, which is about 2.5 weeks, in between that time, you decided it was a homicide and she was the one who did it. And that's
Yes.
3 weeks. Okay. All right. So then you applied for a warrant of her house, which you applied for on May 3rd. And let me approach with this, Your Honor. We're going to mark this as Exhibit 156.
I'll show you the first one. I just need it back when you're done.
Okay.
Please proceed.
By the way, in that period of time between when you had this interview with her and were open to hearing however it happened, the death, and the time you issued the warrant for her and the search for her house and her arrest on May 3rd, did you investigate any other potential suspects in that 2.5-week period of time?
To an extent, yes.
And I assume you have reports about that?
Yes.
That you prepared? Okay. I'm not going to go into that, Your Honor. Okay, so what is the date that you applied for the search warrant to go search her home? When did you ask a judge to give you permission to search her house again, a year later?
May 3rd.